will there be more peace in the 21st century? Because that is exactly the century where we live, where our kids live, and that's why we are interested in this question. Right now we know that we have both war and peace at the same time, but in different countries. As we gather here, we have a war in Syria right now going on, about 400,000 people killed. And we realize that we can only have this gathering, have these very interesting speeches that I much enjoy, because we have peace in Budapest. This picture to the left is a picture that shows that we can coexist peacefully among different religions and among different nations, also among genders. And the picture to the right shows that at times we found ourselves in wars. This picture was taken in the Iraq War. 1 million Muslims were killed in that war. To me, it is a war for resources, an oil war. So some researchers have suggested that technology should save us. Green growth, solar cells, should take us out of these wars that we fight for oil and gas. And you know, I have this hope. I really hope that 100% renewable is something that we together can do in the 21st century. But at the same time, I advise you not to believe that this transition from oil, coal, gas, and nuclear energy to the renewable energies will be fast and easy. I don't think it will be fast, and I don't think it will be easy. Why? We have old forces. They keep us captive. This is a picture of the coal industry in Germany. I don't want to say that the coal industry in Germany is evil, or that the coal industry in China is evil. It's not about nations, okay? But these are business models, and people make money. So they're not going to say, okay, then we stop with this business, because there's this great idea of 100% renewable energies, okay? They're not going to do that. In fact, if we look in detail at our dependency on fossil fuels, we realize that we need 90 million barrels of oil every day. That's such a big number that we can't relate to it, but it means that we need 45 of these ships every day. That's a supertanker, okay? 45 of these ships every day is what we need, otherwise the world doesn't work as we know it. In 1945, at the end of the Second World War, we only used 6 million barrels. And now it's 90 million barrels. Every barrel has 159 liters, so trust me, it's a lot of oil. Energy is a key issue in the 21st century, and if we think about war, and if we think about peace in the 21st century, we must try to go towards 100% renewable energies. That is challenging, I know, but there's another thing which is even more challenging, and that's the military. The United States is the most powerful country in the world, and that's why it plays a key issue, a key role when it comes to war and peace in the 21st century. They have more than 700 military bases across the globe. No other country has so many military bases. And if you look at defense spending, US defense spending is $600 billion, almost. That's $2 billion a day. $2 billion a day. If you look at defense spending in China, around 200 billion, then Russia and Saudi Arabia and the rest of the world. So my idea is that in all countries, we should reduce military spending. It's difficult. Whether we can make it or not depends a lot on the media. Okay? Because the media puts a lot of stories in our head. And sometimes these stories help to promote peace, and other times the media presents war propaganda. As historians, we research what US soldiers are thinking who fight in Iraq, okay? There are interviews being done with these soldiers. And trust me, they don't say, we are here in Iraq to grab the oil. This is a resource war, a war of conquest. That's not what they say. US soldiers in Iraq say, we are here to retaliate for Saddam Hussein's role in the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. So I tell you, it is very important what we have in our head. Because what we have in our head is our thoughts. Our thoughts shape our actions. They influence our feelings. So ultimately, I think, what is the story in your head will decide of whether we have more peace or more war in the 21st century.
On this map, the areas marked red are areas with 0 days of arable farming. This is Somalia, Mali, Algeria. Not just the farming, but also unprecedented rises in temperature, unprecedented drops in rainfall, and the most frequent flash floods of the highest category anywhere in the world. Now, the impact of this on the people of the Sahel is that their livelihoods are being destroyed. People that farm, that fish, that herd animals, these people are being forced to migrate as environmental refugees, desperately looking for some way to sustain their lives. That migration is predominantly down into Central Africa, an area which brings them into conflict with Christian groups across that land, creating tension and conflict in that region. But not just that. What escalates this tension and conflict further is the fact that this migration is taking place in territory that has a huge availability of small arms and light weapons. This tension is coming out in the form of these groups becoming Islamic militants. Now, typically in these sort of situations, we would perhaps expect that the government might have something to do with this. But the government of these regions is largely corrupt and ineffective. Not because of poverty, because under the Sahel are huge energy supplies. The Sahel has an abundance of oil and natural gases. And these governments are not poor. The governments of Nigeria and Chad get billions of dollars of revenue every single year from energy providers like BP. But that money goes straight to corrupt governments. There is no check on how those governments use it. These providers are not held to account how that money is being spent. And these governments fail to safeguard the basic requirements of their citizens. Clean water, food, arable land. In fact, the very thing they sell for the huge revenue is the very thing making their citizens environmental refugees.
But there's a side to London that's less talked about, and it's the role that this city plays in fueling corruption in some of the poorest countries in the world, and the role of some of our bankers, some of our lawyers, and some of our property market in helping that to happen. London is headquarters to HSBC, which was recently fined nearly $2 billion by the US authorities for repeatedly accepting cash that had been laundered by Mexican drug cartels. During the time that HSBC was accepting this dirty cash, 35,000 people died at the hands of the drug gangs in Mexico. London is also home to branches of NatWest, Royal Bank of Scotland, Barclays, UBS, and HSBC again, which accepted millions of pounds from corrupt Nigerian state governors who were paying in the bribes that they'd been accepting. London is also home to the High Court, which in a recent case involving a corrupt billion-dollar Nigerian oil deal, decided that one of the middlemen was entitled to a 10% cut, without questioning whether the British court should be dividing up the proceeds of corruption in this way. And London is also home to a property market that's very popular with the world's corrupt. Now, most people think of corruption as something that happens somewhere else. It's over there, and it's nothing to do with us. But what I'm going to talk about is the role of some actors right here in London in helping some of it to happen. Now, having corrupt funds in our bank accounts here is not just a side effect of that corruption that's happening over there somewhere. It's precisely what allows it to happen. It's what allows the dictator to shore up his undemocratic power, to keep funds off budget and out of sight of his opponents, and to line up a bolt hole for when it all goes wrong. There is simply no point in stealing billions of dollars if you have to keep it under the bed. It doesn't fit, for starters, but you want to go and put it somewhere where you can enjoy it. As a Nigerian anti-corruption investigator put it to us, if you're going to fly a plane, you don't take off until you know where you're going to land. We know Ukrainian activists who are hopping mad that their country's fledgling democracy has been repeatedly undermined by a trail of corruption that leads straight back here to London.